Okay, now we've lowered the background to just above where we want to be. The next stage is to remove all those ridges down to the bottom of the grooves and clean up the surface. And for this, we need a very special sort of slicing cut. So make yourself a good size area of lowered running cuts like this, so you've got the ridges in between. And what we're going to do is take our flat gouge and start removing these ridges. Now, the important thing here to understand is that with this tool here, you can rock it through its cut like this. This tool, because it's so flat, you can't do this. But what you can do is sort of drift it across. So you make a slice like this, or over here. So I've got a low angle cut as before, and we're going across the grain as before, only I'm drifting the tool to the side like this. And I can drift it this way, or I can drift it this way. And as I do this, I'm removing the ridges and coming down to what will be our final surface. So this is the final surface, which means that everything I do in this area here, say, should be nice and clean, and I'm able to leave it, walk away, and it's done. So what I suggest you do is you start with an area, get it really nice and clean, and then extend it. And keep policing the area, so you keep an eye on all those trenches and all those troughs as you go along. Now, if you were doing a lot of this, it would make much more sense to have a wider flat gouge like this, and so we can take bigger cuts. So in the future, you'll probably think about having a wider, flatter gouge in order to make this go quite quickly. But it's the same movement. It goes across like this, and I'm trying not to dig the corner in, not to dig the corner when I go out, and just use this middle part with a little scooping cut like this. I'm not pushing, I'm slicing like so. So take your gouge and just work your way over this area. Let me illustrate what a really wonderful cut this drifting slicing cut is. Look at this piece of wood. We've got a big knot here, it goes right across. This is where a branch grew out of the tree. The grain to either side, here and here, this is quite flat, quite straight, but you can see down the side here that as this grain comes along, it drops down like this. You see it's coming down, and that's the effect of this knot, this branch that was growing out of the tree. So if I was working with the grain, along the grain like this, what would happen is, you can see when I come along here, the grain suddenly dives down like this and is torn up. You can see this here. And similarly on this side, if I'm coming this way, suddenly the grain is diving down on this way. Not so much, but this way is really bad. Now, so as you go along, as you're carving, you don't really want that to happen. It's a bit out of control. But if you find it happening, what you can do is you can come across the grain as we've done before and just clean it up like this. And if you find, for example, this way is going against the grain and you're tearing, then you reverse the cut this way and go with the grain. So you can go across the grain and you can clean up any wood you like, any grain. There's no wood that has a difficult grain that you cannot deal with going across it and putting a slicing cut. Look at the knot itself here. I can happily smooth over this knot, whereas I think if I was going this way, I might find all sorts of problems happening. But across the grain with a slice, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a drifting tool or a rocking. The rule is, the golden rule is, if you're going across the grain and one way's tearing, you can always go the other. So the answer to any difficult grain is to go across it with some sort of slicing cut, left or right. So do practice both ways.